So yeah, exactly. You've probably heard this a million times by now. Now, if you're in the iGaming industry, you might be wondering what's in that for me and how do I address this whole content issue and how do I find the right content for my site and then make it benefit my site. Before we start, contrary to the popular belief, and that's where I'm literally quoting one of my clients, but I can't post kitten videos, they are not relevant to my site. Popular shareable content is not just about posting videos of kittens or images of kittens. Or maybe it is, we're gonna see. Content audit is the process of figuring out what's lacking in your current content strategy and what it is you need to come up with. And there has been a lot of stuff posted over many years, including a guide from Moz, a step-by-step instructions from many other sites telling you how to do this. But there has been a peak of interest in content audits about 8 years ago, when people have just figured out that content is something that you actually need, and you can't just get away with temporary hacks and spamming the search engines. That's where the search engines started getting serious about the quality of whatever they are ranking. Then people figured out that it's probably easier to do it in other different ways. And then you see that after Penguin and Panda updates in 2012, the interest in content audits has started picking up little by little again. People are not as enthusiastic about that as they were initially when the whole concept was first introduced. But they are still interested in that, and a lot is being posted and said at conferences, at industry events about this, but you're still not doing it right, most likely. Especially if you're in the iGaming industry and trying to apply the advice that people give you elsewhere to your own sites and to your own industry. When we're talking about content, we need to distinguish between on-site and off-site content, because for different purposes, you probably need different types of content. You don't do the same thing in each case. You need to adjust based on the actual purposes and the actual goals that you're trying to accomplish. So for on-site content, your primary reason to have something on your site is probably to sell to your customers, to make the site attractive to your potential customers and existing customers and attract visitors to your site. But also, you maybe want to attract links to whatever's on your site. For off-site content, you probably want to create brand awareness, and then again, you're looking for links. You might be considering different types of content. For different purposes, you might want to use different types of content that couldn't be only text, especially in an industry as interactive as iGaming. You probably want to get some videos, get some images, get some apps, and so on, games, whatever you can come up with. If we're just looking at the text, however, let's just limit ourselves to this one particular example of content, one type of content. And we analyze the top 10 URLs ranking for online casino games based on just the word count. That's just me running Screaming Frog, collecting the pure word count of the top 10 URLs ranking for that query in the UK. You will see the results are very different. Some sites barely have 300 words, Some others go way over 4,000 words, but that's quite misleading. So for example, the top word count that we see for Sky Vegas, 4,000 plus words, what does that actually mean? If you're just told that number, what would you likely imagine? A page of text, a long scrollable page of text, right? That's what it is in reality. Basically, this is Google's cache of that page, and all it is just titles of games and links to more information and links to play those games. And part of those games, a larger part of those games, wouldn't be even on the page that you're viewing, but would only be accessible if you click a button, if you scroll to see more. So, very misleading. Don't just go by whatever metrics you can measure automatically with tools like word count. That's not the way to analyze that. What do you actually want to analyze? Two things. Possible issues with your existing content, because unless you're starting a new site, you probably have quite a bit of content on your site already. And your content needs, what it is that you're lacking that you might need to add to your content strategy. So based on just what I'm saying here, you probably understand already that to do a proper content audit, you need to be at least a bit technical to understand the underlying issues, especially when we're talking about the existing issues. So possible issues with your existing content could be, for example, duplicate content or unindexable content. These are the biggest issues that I have actually seen across multiple clients of mine in this industry whose sites I've been analyzing over many years. Duplicate content could be of two types. It could be across different domains, or it could be within your own domain. Where do cross-domain duplicate issues usually come from? At least in this particular industry, you might have a bunch of affiliates using the same game reviews or casino reviews provided by the affiliate programs and the casino brands. Let's face it, affiliates barely ever overwrite reviews if they are just being given those reviews. How many people here are affiliates? Please raise your hands. How many of you are writing your own game reviews or casino reviews? Okay, some people have actually got it right. Excellent. How many of you represent casino brands or gambling brands? Okay, do you provide reviews for your affiliates? How many of them actually override them? A few, yeah, exactly. That's the issue. That's the big issue for this industry. Also, on the other hand, you as a casino representative, when you're getting games from game developers, do you use the reviews of those games or game rules or whatever content being provided by the developers with those games? Okay, so that's where two main issues with cross-domain duplicate content come from in the iGaming industry. On-site duplicate content, on the other hand, might have something to do. That's where it gets really technical and you really need to understand your site architecture. That might have to do with CMS-specific features, like, for example, if you're using WordPress, you're posting a post, and some of you may have heard my talk about WordPress SEO a while ago, and that's where I explained this in detail. It might have... So, for example, you're posting a post on your WordPress-based site. That's just to give you an example, one of the most popular CMS out there. So you're posting a post. It appears as a separate post on its own page. But in the meantime, on an out-of-the-box installation of WordPress where you haven't tweaked anything and haven't done any on-site SEO, it will also appear in your category page It will also appear on your homepage or your blog homepage when you post it, along with all the other posts that you have recently posted. And if you do not cut it off at some point and have a read more link, for example, and just display part of your post, that's just exactly the same content that you get on the post page, for example. Then, if you have multiple authors posting on the same site, you would have the same content appearing on that author's page. So that's yet another duplicate copy of the same content, and so on and so on. Archives, tags, whatever else you have on your site, that all adds up to duplicate content, and you need to do proper housekeeping with your site to make sure that you have no duplicate issues just because of the specifics of your CMS that you're using. Now then, affiliate IDs, if your affiliates are linking to the same page on your site using their affiliate IDs every time, and all of that is indexable, that's just a bunch of different URLs basically displaying the same content. That's what it looks like to the search engines. Also, multiple non-canonicalized versions of the URLs, like if you're using HTTPS, do you also display the same content on HTTP, or do you redirect your HTTP version to HTTPS? If you're using www in front of your URLs, do you redirect the version without the www to the correct version of the URLs? Trailing slashes, and so on and so on and so on. Capitalized versus non-capitalized versions of the URLs, like names of whatever you're using. So basically, this all needs to be looked at, and this all needs to be eliminated as potential source of duplicate issues. Now, before we continue, let me just mention that technically, duplicate content penalty does not really exist. It's not a penalty, it's a filter. But to you as site owners, as site operators, it probably doesn't make much difference if your content is not going to rank anyway. So, same content might also be literally used by multiple different URLs, not duplicated URLs, not multiple ways of accessing the same content, which is actually on the same page, but multiple URLs reposting the same content. For example, what I see happen quite a lot in the iGaming industry is sites using the same meta tags, and I'm talking here about mainly meta title and description, across multiple pages, sometimes across the whole site. I get that a lot. I see that a lot. Basically, think of meta tags as you would think of your paid ads copy. If you were paying money for placing an ad, say if you're lucky enough and in your market, in your country that you're targeting, PPC ads, AdWords ads are allowed, what do? You optimize your ad according to the query, according to the URL you're trying to bring that traffic to, so that people are enticed to click on your ad. And it's not just displayed, but actually getting clicked by the kind of target audience that you want to address with that ad. Well, treat your meta tags, treat your meta titles and descriptions in the same manner, because that's what they are essentially. They are your ads that come, I wouldn't say for free, because there's probably a budget associated with your organic SEO efforts anyway, so that's not really free traffic as some would like to present that, but that's your ad just in the organic SERPs. That's what will appear, that's what people will see when they are searching for something that your site happens to be ranking for. And that's what influences their decision within seconds of viewing that SERP page, whether or not they're going to click through to your site or whether they're just going to go to somebody else's site. So another issue that could be a duplicate issue across multiple URLs on your site is too much boilerplate content. When I say boilerplate, I don't just mean links to terms of service, links to some rules, affiliate agreement, whatever it is, but I actually mean repeating content that's a bit longer than that. If you have any elements that are repeating across all the pages, you might want to look into that and eliminate as much of duplication as possible where it makes sense. Sometimes it might actually make sense to just keep displaying that all the time. Just make sure majority of each page is not that duplicated content. Now, talking about unindexable content, that's where it gets interesting. Unindexable content can result from portions of websites, areas of website blocked from indexing by robots.txt. So you might want to review what it is that you're blocking and whether or not you really need to block all of that. Google Search Console has an excellent tool for testing your robots.txt. So by all means, if you want to implement some changes to your robots.txt, just make sure you test it first with that tool and make sure that nothing that you want indexable doesn't get blocked. And on the other hand, nothing that you want blocked will remain indexable. Meta robots applied to particular pages may be a reason why certain pages are not indexable, and you need to keep track of what exactly you're closing from indexing. Now, there's another issue, which is uncrawlable links. Like if you're linking to some content through JavaScript, and they will tell you that Google is actually pretty good these days with indexing JavaScript only, it's still better to have a plain HTML link if there is something that you definitely want indexable. Because here's an example. This is an actual client-side audit where we have found with a Screaming Frog crawl 87 URLs, out of which 44 have been blocked by robots. Okay, majority of those were blocked correctly. They didn't need that indexable, but some have also been redirecting, which is then again okay, because some you might want to redirect for whatever reasons. There were also client errors, no response, that type of errors, but in addition to what you're seeing here, there's something that Screaming Frog could not discover, and you could only discover that by manually clicking through the site and analyzing what it is that you're seeing and how it's linked to, and just checking, just taking pieces of that content and checking that in Google and seeing and confirming that it's actually not indexed. Those were pages, they had tons of content, tons more of content, like 200 plus URLs that were linked to through JavaScript, and they were completely invisible, not just to Screaming Frog, but Google as well. Facepalm. So, let's imagine that you have all your current issues covered and you figured out what to do with them and what needs fixing. Now, next question that you're gonna ask yourself during a content audit is, what content do you actually need? And to answer that question, you need to answer the following questions. What do people want to see on your site? And on the other hand, what would make people link to your site? What is the wow factor that would make everybody want to give you that link of whatever other site? The typical approach that is advised by the Moz guide and all those other step-by-step guides to content audits is analyze what gets linked on other sites and analyze what gets shared in the social media on your competitors' sites or other sites ranking in the same vertical. Only in the iGaming industry, that approach doesn't really work. Raise your hands if you have tried the official, the typical approach advised by everybody and have been unsuccessful discovering anything useful. Yeah, so some of you know what I'm talking about. Basically, it doesn't work due to the following reasons. What gets linked is what you pay for, what you have affiliate relations with, what you run some promotions for, what else you do that makes you get those links, what your private network is, and so on and so on. That's where typical iGaming sites get majority of their links. So that has nothing to do with answering your question about the linkable content in the industry, because that's all artificial links pretty much, which works all right, which might get you in trouble with Google or might not, because everybody else is doing the same stuff and Google just can't have empty SERPs for the whole industry. But still, that doesn't help you answer the question, what content will get you links? And as for the social media, some of you may recognize the tool that I have the screenshot from, BAC, which is like the content audit standard across all the other industries, but not for iGaming. Because what gets shared is, for example, the homepage of this site, right? Okay, why would you want to share on Facebook the homepage of a casino site? Probably because that site is running some sort of promotion or competition where clients get free spins or whatever because they share on Facebook, right? That's a valid approach, but that doesn't answer your question, what content will get shared. So that's a problem. On Twitter, on the other hand, all those shares are sometimes just fake accounts. Not many of those accounts are genuine, and not many of them are sharing that content just because they are genuinely interested in it. Some have been bought, some have been created, some accounts have been created just for the purpose of sharing that site's URLs on Twitter and getting it more visibility across the platform. But that still has nothing to do with what content is likely to get shared. What to do, except for just sit there and panic. Luckily, there are still things that could help you. What is genuine, most likely, is people asking questions. If this industry gets any sort of genuine visitors, genuine customers, then people will surely be talking about the issues typical of your industry, and they will be asking questions. So that's where your solution lies. That's another tool that's part of BAC that is called Question Analyzer. And what it does is it pulls up questions asked on forums and Q&A sites about the keywords that you are researching, about the topic that you are researching. For example, online casino games that yielded such a poor result in the traditional interface of BAC is yielding much better results in this particular tool. And there you can see a bunch of questions that could actually be addressed with the content that you could create and then use for on-site or off-site promotions and link building and content marketing like Martin was talking about before me. Also, people search, and there's another tool, Answer the Public, you might be familiar with that one as well, that shows all the queries related to whatever you are searching that are getting searched for in Google by actual customers, by actual visitors, actual searchers that are likely to visit your site then. So these are the genuine queries that people would be interested in, which is another great idea of topics for your content and angles you could cover. And let's make no mistake, some of these may have been covered to death. Like, for example, what are online casino games? Yeah, well, every site probably has a page listing all the different online casino games and have been since ages ago, right? So not all of these ideas are probably very usable, but you're pretty sure to discover something that could be of interest and could deserve some coverage from you and could gain you some audience. If all else fails, yeah, well, we can still resort to kitten images and videos, but you can still make them relevant to your industry. There's still possibility of doing that. So, to wrap this up, here's your to-do list, here's your takeaway from today's session. Go ahead and identify your issues, on-site, off-site, duplicate content, unindexable content, whatever they are. Fix those issues. Then listen to your audience and address their needs. Oh, and probably one last remark about the kitties. If you're targeting the UK market, you might want to really carefully consider using kitten images because they appeal to the children. And you know the latest regulation. So thanks for your attention. Any question, you're welcome to ask them.
Thank you, Julia. So many years. How many years has iHas Cheeseburger been like the most popular site ever? Like since forever?
Oh my God, like what, 10 years, 8 years?
We all need to create our own iHas Cheeseburger.
Some of those memes actually come from I Can Has Cheeseburger.
I know, I saw on the bottoms. Do we have some questions for Julia? We're talking about a little bit about starting out with a technical audit and then coming out with well, there's a lot of strategic advice in there as well. So do we have any questions on either of those? Good.
Hi, I don't really know how to phrase this, so I'll just start. I've been paying a lot of attention to the quality refreshes and Google's recommendations regarding topical content. So if I was to publish a piece of content about the FA Cup final last year, that content, in theory, should never be read again because it's not relevant to the audience. When you mass up quite a lot of this content, do you have any opinion on whether you should keep it or lose it? Because Google, in the past couple of weeks, said keep it, then equally it's not content which is driving engagement or hitting any real quality scores.
Yeah, there's a heated discussion going on about that. Google has made a statement, Google's representative has made a statement, then they withdrew that statement. Basically what I would say is, SEO's favorite answer, it depends. It basically depends on your particular site situation. If you only have, say, 20 pages, you probably don't want to get rid of any of them. Maybe update them, maybe add some more relevant information, maybe overwrite them with something better quality if they were really shitty quality content. But you definitely don't want to get rid of those pages. On the other hand, if you have a site that has lots of outdated URLs which barely have any content, maybe, unless those pages, you know for a fact, have been penalized, maybe it's better to just redirect them to something more relevant. Maybe it's better to just forward them. Basically, it's a matter of a thorough on-site audit, and then you decide what to do with them. There is no one-size-fits-all answer to this, really. I wouldn't say just do this.
Some more questions for Julia. I had one on your meta tag description duplication issue. I duplicate a lot of meta tag data, not all of it. Maybe not the description, but a lot of other meta tag data is going to be duplicated from page to page. And
happens all the time, yeah.
And are you saying that that's entirely wrong in all cases, always?
Well, basically, that's you devaluing whatever you have on each particular page. Because, say, if your page happens to rank somewhere, but the title and description do not correspond to the actual content on the page, even if people click through based on your description and don't find what they expect to find, they just click back, and that's your CTR going down the drain.
Okay.
And CTR is yet another ranking factor, even though it's a minor one. Or maybe it's not a minor one in some particular SERPs. That depends again. But still, what you want to do is you have better chance of ranking for whatever each page is targeted at if you have a proper description and proper meta title. Now, meta title and meta descriptions per se are not ranking factors. You cannot just spam whatever you want into your meta titles and descriptions and just rank based on that. But they do help with getting visitors from the SERPs, which is the main purpose of your ranking. So that's how it goes.
And what about categories, though? Say I have my reviews and I have a meta description for my review section, which are totally different than my news section. I'm giving the user an experience that they're expecting on the metadata, but I am duplicating it. Is the mere duplication going to be an issue as well? Not just for click-through rate or dwell time?
Depends. You need to see the actual site to make recommendations. You need to see the particular situation that you're talking about. Because, say, what's right for one site may be completely wrong for another site. And there might be, okay, the reviews section, and you have review, but then again, you would have reviews for different stuff, wouldn't it be? Different stuff that you're reviewing. So it only makes sense to somehow reflect that in your titles and descriptions.
Should be less lazy. Any final questions for Julia? Ladies and gentlemen, warm thank you for Miss Julia Logan, aka Irish Wonder, the legend.
Thank you.